Why is that?
Wes, I'm reminded of a very impactful statement that I heard from Coach Gene Stallings years ago when he talked about big games and little games. He said he didn't like that comparison. He says, because try losing one of those little games. And if you ever do, it ends up being the biggest game all year long. Well, it's the same thing with real estate closings. Every game, every closing is a very big deal at Jacob Title, because when it's your closing and your contract on the line, it's a very big deal. And we understand that at Jacob Title.
So it sounds like whether your client is a first-time residential buyer or a multi-million-dollar investor, they can expect your A game.
That's exactly right. As a matter of fact, when you bring your real estate closing to us at Jacob Title, we understand it's all about trust and confidence. And when Stan McDonald tells you that a chicken dips snuff, you can look under his wing for the box.
And like Beams likes to say, there's no doubt about it.
What does it mean to be a part of the Southeastern Conference? That you scheduled your wedding and even your child's birth around your school's game? Of course. But it means more than that. It means you're home to hundreds of Fulbright, Truman, Goldwater, and Rhodes Scholars. It means starting out as the birthplace of American public higher education, and now leading the way in unmanned spacecraft. This is the SEC. And here, it just means more. What does it mean to be a part of the Southeastern Conference? That there's an honest-to-goodness chandelier in your tailgate tent? Perhaps, but it means more than that. It means pioneering medical solutions to predict new flu viruses. It means leading globally diverse teams to eliminate starvation in developing countries. And it means being home to one of the nation's top cybersecurity programs. This is the SEC. And here, it just means more.
Welcome to Talkin' Ball with Scott Tyson and Drew DeArmond. Call into the Neighbors Wealth Management Hotline now, 256-576-4977. That's 256-576-4977. Now, here's Scott and Drew.
And with that, we do say welcome back in to another brand new live edition of Talking Ball, 97.7 ESPN, The Zone. Scott Tyson, Drew DeArmond, welcome into the program on a Wednesday morning. Talent Heating and Air helping us kick off this morning's show. They say safe travels into work, into school, wherever you may be headed. Don't forget to give them a call, 256-503-4490. Let their talent go to work for you. It's Talon Heating and Air, and they are our proud sponsors of our Bracket Challenge. Time is slowly running out if you want to be a part of that. So head on over, Facebook page, Twitter page, click on that link, get in there, because we're going to give away everything but the kitchen sink here in the studio. We may even give that away as well, because if we want to give it away, we just do whatever we want.
$600 package, right?
Yeah, something like that. I don't know.
Pretty cool.
We can give away some more stuff if we want to.
Yeah, I mean, I went 1-1. Bama State, kudos. And there you go. Shout out the state of Alabama. Got off to a great start last night in the NCAA tournament and the NIT. Of course, I did pick San Diego State, and they would decide to have food poisoning or whatever it looked like they had and get mutilated.
We'll get to that here in just a minute, because it was a big night, but it was not a great night for our UAH Chargers last night. I tell you what, Nova is good.
Yeah.
Nova is great, but I tell you what, Nova got off to a fantastic start. Shot the ball, as John Schulman would say, they shot the blood out of the basketball early on, but you give, I mean, it was 31-19 at one point in the first half.
It was 13-3 at the end of the first media timeout, and then 31-14 like halfway through the first half. So, and then UAH began to dig out after that, and
they trailed by 5 at the break.
5 at half. It was like what, 40-35.
So the good news is, I looked at that, and I watched it, and I tell you what, Nova does a good thing. It's free. You don't have to pay flow, so you can actually watch the game.
So they get their
free.
NIL from somewhere else.
Yeah.
Okay.
And so I looked at it and I was like, gosh, they're down by 5.
Yeah, and that.
So I went back and I looked
it by thinking about what you just said, and we talked about them being down 31-14. That's actually not bad.
So I went back to the first meeting.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
UAH was down by 7. at the half in the first meeting against Montevallo, and I'm thinking
over at Montevallo, yeah.
I'm thinking, okay. I'm like, you know what? And the
you
first
took their best shot. You're thinking you're in good shape.
Yep. The first 5 minutes of the second half, UAH usually comes out, and they
like when it looked like I cursed them. You know, when it was on Super Tuesday.
I'm thinking, I know it's on the road at Nova, but they've been there before.
They were down 1 to Lee, and then they came out second half and just destroyed them.
And I'm like, it wouldn't be easy because Nova is good. And then I started looking at the foul trouble, and I'm thinking, okay. I mean, there's tendencies, but then the second half, they got it within 1 with 2 minutes and 25 seconds left. UAH would not score another basket.
It's rough. I mean,
and then I looked at the box score, and this just makes me just hurt.
Right.
Tommy Murr was 5 of 16 on the night. Blake Campbell was 5 of 13.
And that's your 2 best players, really, honestly, that have led the way the entire postseason. It's just really, I mean, look, this is one of the all-time great UAH teams in probably the top 2 or 3 ever. They finished 32-2 overall. It actually is very eerie to how Huntsville High's season went. I mean, you know what I'm saying? I mean, in basically the same record. And the only difference is Huntsville lost to Bob Jones and finished 3rd in the Huntsville City Classic, and then lost in the Elite 8 to Hoover. And then what UAH did was they just bookended it. They lost to Nova in the first game of the year on a neutral floor, and then the last game of the year, and unfortunately they had to play on their home floor. So it stinks. But I mean, I give them a lot of credit, though, because there's a lot of teams that wouldn't have had the wherewithal and the mental toughness to withstand Nova coming out, getting up 13-3, and then getting up 31-14, and as you put it, shooting the blood out of the ball. And then with 2 minutes and 25 seconds to go, it's wide open. I mean, it's a 1-point game.
You give up 40 points in the first half.
Right.
And I've been inside the locker room all year. And I know Coach probably said, guys, we can't give up 40 in the second half. I mean, giving up 40 is not good.
Yeah, because this was the final was 76-69.
Yes.
So this is, I'll be honest, just because they played Nova so much the last 3, 4, 5 years, and then the first game was like this.
Yep.
You're used to it being played in the triple digits. So if you told me that UAH was going to hold them to 76 points, I'd have thought, they got a good chance of winning. But I'll give Nova credit. Pretty much it was that MO the entire regional. Nova only scored 80 points one time, and it was 80.
Yeah, so they had to work for everything.
They had to work for all 3 wins.
Well, I'll tell you this, though. There have been a lot of UAH teams that have been trailing like that out of the get-go. And Shulman had one, too, when he faced Nova. Nova.
Right.
Where they got off to a horrendous start, and then the floodgates, everything caved in, and then some, and they didn't recover from that start. And I mean, you got to give Mick Hedgespeth and Alex Maston and that coaching staff, Josh Hensel, you got to give them a lot of credit. They battled. Battled and they fought to the end. It's just a shame that senior group, that senior core will not be together anymore. But it does bring up another question as far as Division II goes. And remember, Les Studeman has told us so many times that she does not like this regional
format, the regional
format.
Stuff. Yeah.
Is it time? Because I think Division III is all neutral site. I think it is. I'm not for sure.
Think so.
Should it be? Should Division II, has it grown so much that these tournament games should be neutral site games?
Well, it goes to something I asked you yesterday because is it the Sunshine State Conference that Nova comes?
Yes.
Well, that's why I asked, does everybody have the same Super Tuesday type format? And then when you play on your home floor, then you go to a neutral floor, and then you come, and then you get regional bids. I think they ought to start doing regional bids, but just find a dadgum place or 3 or 4 places or whatever the hell you got to do, and rotate it and make sure it's a neutral floor where if you're at least going from, round of 32 to round of 48, round of 32, Sweet 16, and then Elite 8, where you're playing it on a neutral floor, because I don't really think that's fair. Because look, the GSC tries to give their schools at least a shot by playing at Sanford, and it's nobody's home floor. So I mean, when Nova that plays their entire dang postseason until they get to the Elite Eight on their home floor. I really don't think that's fair. I think it ought to be on a neutral floor. And then, because
Totally
again,
agree.
think about it. I mean, the first game of the year was at Montevallo, and it went down to the last shot. This one was really close too, but I think they should find 2 to 3 to 4 spots and rotate them. And then, and there's got to be venues, I mean, throughout the South that you could find where you could play, an event there. I mean, for example, I know it's where the high school Final Four is played, but Probst Arena would work.
Well,
in Birmingham, in Alabama.
I'm thinking Atlanta. I mean, Georgia State, Georgia State in Atlanta, or even Jacksonville.
Yeah,
where
there's a lot of spots throughout the South where you could play this, where it would be a totally neutral format. They should have neutral regional format, just like they have the Elite Eight. I mean, then hell, why isn't the Elite Eight at Nova? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So they can generate more NIL money. I mean, give me a break. I mean, I credit UAH for competing really hard and falling just short. But I mean, I do think that it's time to take it off. Like, I think it should be on a neutral floor. I'll be honest with you. I know they do it to create crowd and interest, but I think the NCAA Women's Division I tournament needs to get
off the home court.
Well, they do for the Sweet 16 and then the Final Four. But I even think the first 2 rounds they should stop having it on dadgum home courts.
Really?
Yeah.
Has it become that big to where it can support itself?
It's the NCAA tournament. I mean, I think they do it to make sure they sell tickets and things of that nature, and to kind of reward the top 4 seeds. But I think it's time to take it out of there and then try to find some neutral. I mean, there's enough arenas around the country where if you're not playing the men's tournament, you don't have to play them in the same place.
Right.
I think all NCAA,
there's venues to where it can work.
Yeah, I think all NCAA situations, at least in basketball, should be on a neutral floor. Now, and when again we've expanded the football playoff in the first round, some of that is on home fields, and I think eventually that needs to change because again, I mean, what's the criteria for giving a team? It's still subjective. Well, I think your conference is stronger than their conference. I'm going to give you the home field advantage. I don't think that it should be, but I mean, we're just in the infancy of this football playoff.
Yeah,
but
we are.
I think in all situations, I think it should be at least in those 2 sports, football and basketball, it should be on neutral courts. Baseball and softball, that's tougher because again, you got to have venues and a lot of times when these schools are playing, by the time those playoffs are playing, Major League Baseball is going on, and so you do have the Rosenblatt stadiums of the world and things of that nature, but you really need to use the college stadiums. And it would be kind of stupid to, Alabama and Oklahoma State are playing, but let's go play at Georgia Tech.
Yeah, I was thinking about that last night. I was like, can you imagine the NCAA Division I tournament?
Right.
And saying, okay, guess what, guys? We're going to have the South region. And I thought about this last night.
Mm-hmm.
Can you imagine saying Auburn, Alabama, Troy, Ole Miss, Mississippi State, and I was thinking Florida because they would be in the SEC, so you'd count them in there. That'd be 6, and then you could have like Tennessee. And guess what, guys? We're going to play the first round games in Auburn because Auburn is the number 1 overall seed, so we're going to play the first round games in Auburn.
Yeah. Well, and think about this too. I just think when you look at it overall, and you look at the way it's set up, I actually like the way the GSC does it.
Yeah,
I can see rewarding the first game on your floor. It's Super Tuesday. The top 4 seeds are on their home floor, but then after that, it needs to be all neutral.
All neutral.
I don't like this
if
thing.
It's an NCAA tournament,
Nova
it should be neutral.
Being number 1 in the country, so we're never leaving our home floor. That's that's not. I think that's Bush. I think giving them a chance, and they've won 84 in a row or whatever it is, and that's awesome and credit to them. But you should have to leave your home court, and
at some point,
and before the Elite Eight. I mean, I just think overall, you should get maybe one home game, but I like the way the GSC does it. I just think they need to start putting it, on neutral floors. Because look, Sanford, allows the GSC to have their last 2 rounds on their floor for the GSC.
But it works out well because it's a conference tournament,
but,
and usually they're playing in their conference tournament at that time. So there's a lot of venues across the country in the South that could host this
There's
tournament.
a lot more venues for basketball and friggin' a football than there is baseball. Okay.
Yes.
It's a lot easier. So I just think they need to modernize it. And, again, not taking anything away from the great run that the Nova Southeastern Sharks have been on. Because, hell, 15 years ago, I didn't know who Nova Southeastern was. So, I mean, they've got,
I know. And
they've got a lot of money.
It's coming off the heels of UAH losing. So it looks like we're just sitting here saying, you know what, UAH lost because they had to go on the road and all that kind of stuff. That's not it.
No.
I mean, UAH was well equipped to win this game. They dug themselves a hole and they had to dig out of it. And credit to Nova for everything. But I'm just saying, I think it's time that the Division II looks at itself and says, hey, look, we need to make a change. We are now stable enough to where we can get away from this. I get it. Travel back in the day was a big factor for this. Teams didn't have to spend a lot of money. You could be in one site. It was easy to do, but you could do exactly what they're doing at another venue. You
could. So I am going to just once again pay homage to the special group of seniors. I mean, this thing, Mick Hedgebest year 2 is going to be a complete rebuild. He and the staff are going to, have to hit the portal and certainly have signed some players already that they're very excited about. And certainly we're super excited. I hope they retain those that they want to retain.
Blake Campbell should be back in a Charger uniform.
He's got another year. I didn't know this. I thought Blake Campbell was a senior.
Blake Campbell is a junior.
Maybe he'll finally make Player of the Week next year. You think so? If he has 30 in a game, I don't know. I mean, but that's great that they can build around Blake. I know Merstash is gone. I mean, he had a tremendous career, and what a move it was for him to play for the Great Linear Cup at Lipscomb, but then come home and play in his community at UAH and become GSC Player of the Year. What a journey for Daniel Saylor.
Well, Blake was a graduate student, but I think he has one more year if he wants it.
Yeah, I've given up trying to figure that out. I just know that I guess I thought COVID was done, but you can't ever get rid of Dr. Dumbass. But still, but it would be to UAH's benefit, of course, to have a guy like Blake Campbell, who I thought was just probably, if you had gone out there and tried to find someone to fit in with 4 returning starters, I don't know if you could have found anyone any more perfect than Blake Campbell.
Yeah.
He did an amazing job. Like I said, Daniel Saylor becoming the best big man in the Gulf South Conference. I mean, what a jump he made this year. And but he was first team all conference, at least by the Drew Index. So, I mean,
he was first team all conference by numbers index.
Whatever,
I mean, shoot.
I mean, when your head coach says you were 6 of 11 and it hurts your field goal percentage, I mean, come on.
He led the nation in field goal percentage.
So Daniel Saylor was tremendous, and he's by this time he'll be making $100,000 building a rocket next year or something. But
he's got an interesting dilemma because
he might be going overseas.
The way he blossomed, this year, he could earn some
overseas
European money.
Euro, man. Yeah. Find the right one.
Yeah,
don't get stuck in
no man's land.
Yeah, call Richard Hendricks.
7:17. Let's get a break in. When we come back, there was First Four Madness last night.
One was great. I mean, a baseball pass tipped around. I mean, what a finish.
What a finish. And Dayton, I tell you what, though, and then we'll explain it all when we return.
You're listening to Talkin' Ball on 97.7 ESPN, The Zone.
Got a wreck on 565 westbound just past the Greenbrier exit. It's a no injury. One of the vehicles is slightly blocking the number 3 lane, so be careful coming through there. I-65 northbound is north of Lakon, single vehicle accident. One indicator, 6th Avenue north of the Beltline. Another one indicator, Old Trinity and McIntyre, both those trying to clear. Do your methods to lose weight no longer work for you? 7 different hormones can make it impossible for you to lose weight. You can find out with a free quiz at 2030huntsville.com. Captain Nick in the Valley Skywatch Traffic Center.
Eagle Masonry and Installation. It's right there in the name. Eagle is your one-stop shop for block, stone, or brickwork, monument signs, and outdoor kitchens and fireplaces. Eagle also offers the finest craftsmanship and insulation, including fiberglass or spray foam insulation, and of course, insulation removal. Philip Love and his team have years of experience, bringing the region the best in masonry and insulation services. For more information and a quote, visit insulatewitheagle.com or call 256-755-1556. Eagle saves you time. Eagle saves you money.
Tom Luganville here for my friends at Woody Anderson Ford. Bobby White and his team take great pride in their service department, and you can see it the moment you walk into those beautiful new service lanes. And just like a championship team, they all work together to make sure your experience is second to none, whether you drive a Ford or not. Also, check out the gold certified pre-owned inventory at Woody Anderson Ford for great deals every day. Stop by and see them at Jordan and Sparkman or at Woody Anderson of Madison on Hughes Road, or visit WoodyAndersonFord.com.
Are you tired of chasing a roofing contractor to show up on time or even show up at all? I'm Sam Fleming with Fleming Roofing and Restoration. Our motto at Fleming Roofing is we show up. Our goal at Fleming Roofing is to provide the reliable customer service that you deserve, and we have the resources to meet all of your roofing needs: residential, commercial, industrial, replacement, or repairs. We are manufacturer certified for roof coatings, single ply membranes, and asphalt shingles. Whenever you need a roofing professional you can count on, call Fleming Roofing and Restoration. We are committed to finding the solution that meets your needs. We don't have quotas or heavy-handed sales tactics. Fleming Roofing, we have expert experience. We show up. Free estimates, residential, commercial, industrial, replacement, or repairs. Check us out at FlemingHSV.com. FlemingHSV.com. When you need a quick response, it's Fleming Roofing and Restoration. We show up.
This is Steve Moulton from 97.7 ESPN The Zone, and this is What's Happening. Be sure and download our app. Just search 977 ESPN in your Google Marketplace or your Apple Store, depending on your device, so you can take us wherever you might go. And you can also check out our latest zone deals. Head over to our website, 977ESPN.com. The top left banner reads, "Savings never tasted so good." Click on that, then enter in the big zone deal store for half-off zone deals of Lawler's Barbecue, Cecil, Carrabba's Italian Grill, Bubby's Diner, Corlejos Mexican Grill, Bad Daddy's Burger Bar, Divergence, Full Moon Barbecue, Bigfoot Little Donuts, Hickory Store Barbecue, Good Company Cafe, Apple Lane Farms, the Decatur location, and rounds of golf at Cherokee Ridge Golf Course and Gunter's Landing. And that's what's happening.
Thank you for making us your number one choice for sports talk in North Alabama.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you very much.
97.7 ESPN, The Zone.
All right, welcome back to Talking Ball 97.7 ESPN. The Zone. Scott Tyson, Drew DeArmond. And it is time to hear this.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Just a little over 24 hours from now.
Hey, we still had some madness last night, man. When you're throwing a dang baseball pass and it's ricocheting off 3 people, and you already blew a 1-and-1 where you could have given yourself the lead, and then you force a turnover to get the ball back, and you throw it the length of the floor. And you just decide to take a chance, because if you airmail it, you give the team the dang ball under their own basket. But it ricocheted off 3 people and then was laid up and in.
Here's how it sounded, courtesy of TBS or True TV. Actually, it's True TV, but it's still CBS Sports.
It's under that umbrella.
Yes, it is. Here's how. Well, that is. I gotta stop one and get the other. But Alabama State, St. Francis last night, and I'm sure much to the dismay of our Bulldog fans here in Huntsville.
Still great for the state of Alabama.
Still great for the state of Alabama because it gives them another 20-win team. Here is the final seconds.
Seconds left, and here we go. This is where dreams are made. All for it all. Simpson, home run play, the deflection. 0.7 seconds left. Alabama State in front.
I mean, it was good stuff.
Alabama State gets the win. Their first ever, by the way, tournament win.
It would have been St. Francis, same thing. So that's what it came down to. And, classy response from St. Francis. The Red Flashes. Didn't know that's another new one I learned.
Okay.
The Red Flashes. Their head coach has been there at the university for 30 years, his entire professional career. He played there.
Yeah.
Then he was a graduate assistant. Then he was an assistant coach. Then his dad was the athletic director. Then his dad hired him as the head coach. Then his dad retired, and he was in the stands, on pins and needles. And, they ended up dropping the game. But like he said afterward, look, what a great college basketball game.
It was.
I mean, if you sit there and watching it and you have no rooting interest, I mean, what a game. It really was. It was a great way to get March Madness started. And then we saw the beat down from UNC Town after that.
Well, now Alabama State will make that short drive
that's
to
another
Lexington.
cool thing, man. Like, they're going to Lexington and they're playing a team from their freaking backyard, like 30 minutes from their campus. They're playing the Auburn Tigers. Of all people.
I know it's kind of surreal, but Alabama State, by the way, this is the 1, 2, 3, 4. This is their 5th appearance in the tournament. They had lost to Michigan State in 01. Something about 01. Duke in 2004. They lost to Morehead State in 09, and they lost to Texas San Antonio in 2011.
Right.
This was a huge win for the conference last night.
For the SWAC.
Yes, because each share this year, each unit,
the money,
is worth $348,000. That'll guarantee the SWAC at least $2.1 million over the next 6 years. So that is pretty big for a conference financially that struggles. And there's no doubt about it. In HBCU, the SWAC conference struggles when it comes to financial stuff. And so that was a huge, huge win for Alabama State. The other one last night, North Carolina, San Diego State, 95-68. Carolina gets it done. RJ Davis, sizzling. All 6 of his three-pointers go in last night, 26 points, game high. They advanced to take on 6 seed Ole Miss. And I know a lot of people are sitting there saying, well, hey, look, North Carolina justified themselves for being in the tournament with a win. But you look at the numbers, North Carolina State did this during the year. They were 6-0 or 8-0 in quad 2 games. Last night was a quad.
Pointed that out on a break. I really hadn't even thought about San Diego State being a quad 2.
It was a quad 2 game. And North Carolina all season, they were perfect in quad 2 games. They were horrendous in quad 1 games, and that's what they'll get when they face Ole Miss. So, I mean, I don't know if you can say that North Carolina justified themselves for being in there. They look good, but
they did look good. I mean, give them credit. I mean, Sad Sack League made a statement. We'll see how much further all those teams can get besides the Blue Devils. And I went 1985 on my bracket. Everybody's wanting to know. I sent my bracket in yesterday afternoon. And if you're it's not, and I'm not referring to Huey Lewis in the News or Back to the Future. I'm referring to 1985 Big East. So I've got utter domination. I nearly just went completely like I want to piss off all the national media so bad that they don't want to watch it. I nearly went 4 SEC teams. I nearly went to. I nearly basically said the Big Four in the SEC tournament semifinals was your Final Four preview, but I did leave Alabama out of the Final Four.
Really?
I do think they can beat Duke on a neutral floor,
right?
But I went with the Blue Devils. But I went with Florida, the Tennessee Vols, and of course Auburn. And I had Florida playing Duke in the finals and the Gators winning it. So I went with a lot of SEC flavor and a lot of SEC domination in this big dance.
As of right now,
yeah,
or I should say yesterday morning or evening or whatever, 30.8%. 30.8% of the brackets have Duke favored to win the whole thing. 16% have Florida, 9% have Auburn, 7% Houston, 4% have Michigan State and St. John's, 3% have Tennessee and Alabama, and 1% has Kentucky and Gonzaga.
Yeah, I mean, I wait a minute. Did you say Gonzaga?
I said 1.45% of the brackets have Gonzaga as the most picked national champion.
I just caught that at the very end. I just wanted to make sure because they're an 8 seed. So,
yes. Yes.
And I don't think an 8 seed has won it since Villanova in 1985.
This is not 1985, I believe. But I'll say this, though. This year going into the tournament, and everybody's going to sit there and they'll say on the broadcast, well, Ken Palm rankings, and if you figure all this in there, normally we get about 4 people or 4 teams that potentially can win the national championship because of those anomaly numbers that they talk about. This year, the field is more wide open. There are about 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. There's 11 teams, according to those magical Ken Palm numbers, that potentially can win a title. Gonzaga is in that parameter of teams that meet those magical Ken Palm numbers. The look that you gave me right there. I'm just saying because of those magical numbers.
Gonzaga gear from back in the day, and I'm not buying it this year. I mean, they got the other Nimhard, and they got a pretty good big, and they're.
Do you
good.
buy Gonzaga or Kentucky? Both of them have 1%. Do you buy more of Kentucky or Gonzaga to get further?
Gonzaga. Wait a minute. What 1 seed does Gonzaga have to play?
Gonzaga.
You got your bracket right there.
Gonzaga
because they'd have to play a 1.
Yeah. So they are the 8, 9.
Yeah.
I got to find them on here. I tell you, okay, Gonzaga is right there. They'd have to face Houston in the second round.
And then, well, I mean, I'll just say this. I don't think either one of them have a chance in hell. But I mean,
just to get further. I'm saying to get further.
Kentucky
or Gonzaga?
I would still have to say Kentucky because I got Kentucky getting to the Sweet 16 and getting that ass beaten by Tennessee just because I hope Jeff has to go into therapy because I just don't think they're going to beat Tennessee a third time if the Vols get a shot at them. I mean, but I do think Kentucky got a pretty decent draw. I mean, in the first 2 rounds.
Yeah.
So I will be the biggest Troy Trojans fan in the world. I mean, if Troy wins this game, Jeff might want to just deport himself and move to Germany because I'm going to hammer that ass if they lose to Troy. I mean, I guarantee it. I'm going to be like, are you the third best? Can you beat anybody from the state of Alabama, Jeff? Anybody. You know what I'm saying?
Hey, we got to get a break in. Blake Level's on the flip side.
That's right. 7:30 coming.
Yeah.
You're listening to Talkin' Ball on 97.7 ESPN, The Zone.
From the Fox 54 Weather Center, I'm Chief Meteorologist Jordan Dressman. Scattered showers and thunderstorms are going to be possible across the Tennessee Valley as we head into the overnight through the earliest hours of your Thursday morning. Temperatures dropping into the lower 40s. A partly sunny to mostly cloudy sky Thursday afternoon. Does look like we are going to be dry, but we are going to be colder across the Tennessee Valley. Temperatures only climbing into the mid and upper 40s, dropping into the low 30s. More sunshine for your Friday. A mostly sunny sky, but still going to be just a touch on the chilly end of the spectrum, especially when you consider the fact that we are heading into late March. I'm Chief Meteorologist Jordan Dressman on your home for ESPN Radio, 97.7 ESPN The Zone.
Got a wreck on 565 westbound at Greenbrier. It's no injury, and it's basically off the road. One of the vehicles is partially blocking the number 3 westbound lane there. I-65 northbound at the 318 may still be trying to clear. That was a single vehicle. Dr. Sandman has the Somnodent, a safe, insurance-approved alternative for snoring and sleep apnea. Dr. Randall Sandlin, 350-CARE. Captain Eck in the Valley Skywatch Traffic Center.
Mike Rowe here with a quick question. Have you noticed a musty smell in your home? I hope not, because damp smells mean that you could have a crawl space problem. That's where AFS comes in, a groundworks company. They can honestly assess your situation and create a plan to waterproof your crawl space and get to the root cause of the problem. Schedule your free inspection at afsrepair.com/row. And while you're there, check out my latest dirty job. It's a good one.
Licensed in all states where work is performed. See website for details.
Hey there, Bob Baumhauer again. March Madness is here, and it's time to hoop it up at Baumhauer's Victory Grill with our Slam Dunk specials. It's nothing but net with a pound of our world-famous wings. Tip it off with our party-ready trays, including traditional wings, buttermilk fried chicken tenders, and hot lips, to name a few. Want a cold beer with those wings? How about $7.99 pitchers of Yingling served all day? 7 days a week. Break out those brackets and bring the gang to the best watch party place in town, Baumhauer's Victory Grill, the true king of wings.
Hey folks, this is Arthur Seaton, managing partner at University Kia, proudly saying Roll Tide and War Eagle. Stop into University Kia today and shop one of the area's largest selection of new Kias, including Fortes, Seltos, Telluride, and Popular Carnival, and fully electric EV6. View all the great specials at universitykia.com and get pre-approved in minutes so you can drive home your new Kia you really want, because we want to see you in a University Kia.
Listen to UAH Charger basketball all season long.
So when we came out of the timeout, Coach Hedge had initially called a man play, and they ended up faking a zone. So the whole bench was yelling zone, zone, zone. So we tried to switch the play last second. We ended up getting confused. So Tommy swung it to me, and I initially was like, all right, I'm going to try and get to the rim right here. We're only down 2. We don't need a 3. And he flipped his hips real hard, and I tossed it back, and as soon as I let it go, I knew it was in.
Campbell to plug it in. 81-79 Union. Inbounds it goes. Dribbling it out from Tommy Murr. Swings it over to Campbell. Campbell on the wing for the lead. Oh, my God! Blake Campbell! It's a 3! Into the front court for the win! No good! No good! No good! Blake Campbell with some onions from Jackson, Tennessee.
97.7 ESPN The Zone.
It's laundry season at Owen Home Appliance Center. Tired of that washer walking out the door and having to dry a load 2 or 3 times? It's time for a new washer and dryer. Pick from brands like Maytag, GE, Whirlpool, Electrolux, and of course, Speed Queen. Try the new 2-in-1 GE Profile that washes and dries a load all in one machine. Visit the interactive location in Lacey Springs where you can try the washers and dryers before you buy them. Owen Home Appliance Center. Quality products, quality pricing, quality service. It's in the name, Owen Home Appliance Center.
The Havoc Hour with Joe Hunk. Every Tuesday night at 6 p.m. Live from Zambruski's Tavern inside the Huntsville Iceplex. Only on YouTube at WZZN TV.
What's happening? What's happening?
What's happening today is you get a lot of press conferences today.
Yeah. For the games tomorrow.
Yep. All of the teams that are playing tomorrow, they will meet the media for the first time at their sites. And that'll happen this afternoon or this morning. So anybody that's playing on Thursday, they will have their press conferences today. Everyone playing on Friday will have their press conferences on Thursday. You get to practice in your venue for the first time. You get to do all of the shoot-arounds this afternoon. So there's a lot going. There's a lot of happenings surrounding the NCAA tournament going on today and tomorrow.
Right.
Tomorrow is one of the greatest days. Tomorrow is one of the
The
greatest
next
days.
2 days, man. Thursday and
Starts.
Friday. And Friday, you and I'll be over at Metro to start the day. But
That's the greatest morning.
It's great.
That's the greatest morning of our
I'm
lives.
sorry. I mean, you know, I usually don't have breakfast and lunch in the same day, but that I know you do it all the time. But that's why we call you tapeworm. But you know, I may actually have a small lunch and end up somewhere, you know, and be watching.
It's one of the greatest.
First round. I mean,
Greatest
Alabama's going
48
to play
hours.
at lunchtime at 11:40. So
Yes.
Against Robert Morris.
No, so let's break all this down with someone
Speaking
that
of
knows
that,
a lot about it.
He is. He's got a very busy morning, and you would expect that. And it was great to see him in Nashville with his boy Max Barr. And we also saw his one of his partners in the past, Kenny Buckets, a.k.a. Ken Cross. If you follow the media in college basketball in the South, no doubt about it. It was a ton of media in Nashville. And our next guest is part of Southeastern 16. They do a great job breaking down SEC hoops. He was there for a great week of basketball that culminated with the Florida Gators winning the SEC tournament and becoming a number 1 seed. Auburn, another 1 seed, the number 1 overall seed. But we're going to talk to Blake Lovell about the draws for the SEC right now. And he's with us on the Neighbors Wealth Management Hotline. Blake, happy March Madness. You're with Drew and Scott. How are you?
Yeah, doing well, guys. Good to talk to you as always.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So as far as what you're focusing on, on what day 1 and then day 2 from an SEC perspective, what are the biggest storylines you're focusing on Thursday as this event opens, Blake Lovell?
Yeah, it's again, I think when you look at just the way. By the way, I'm glad that finally it seems like over the past couple of years, it seems like the SEC will play 75% of their games on one day and 25% on the other. But I'm glad it's a little bit more spread out this year, so that's something I'm very excited about. But I think when you look at tomorrow's games, I think what I'm most interested in is really these maybe these lower seeded SEC teams like Georgia and Arkansas, and kind of seeing what can they put together to maybe try to make a run here. Obviously, it's going to be tough knowing who you would play in the second round, but if we think about it, right, look, UConn, Gonzaga, Kansas, all in these sort of 7 or lower type spots, and we know that those teams at their best have a chance to win, at least 2 or more games in this tournament. And so when I see Georgia sitting there against Gonzaga, knowing a lot of people are not going to give Georgia a chance because they're going to see the Zags, because I've said it, I mean, the Zags are just they're not your traditional 8 seed at all. Every number tells us that they're not an 8 seed. But then, you look at Kansas. If Kansas were to put it all together, well, I mean, they were number 1 in the country several months ago. And so, it's kind of one of those things, guys, when I look at it, I'm curious to see if either one of those teams that are sort of the underdog here can maybe play the spoiler role, because I do think there's some potential there with both of them. We've seen, those 2 teams win some games here down the stretch to kind of get into this tournament and feel better about their seeding. But again, those are tough matchups when those teams play well, in Gonzaga and Kansas. It's not going to be easy. And then I think, of course, the other storyline to me is, look, everybody's got Missouri and Texas A&M on upset alert.
Yeah.
I think those are 2 of the teams that everyone's looking at, knowing the opponent. I mean, I've said there were 2 locks for me in this tournament bracket that I knew we would get, and I'm not even part of the selection committee. I knew the committee would put an SEC team against Yale, and I knew they would put Arkansas in the same bracket as St. John's. And the Yale thing, I feel like it's one of those where, yes, we remember what happened last year. Texas A&M has a different profile, I think, than that Auburn team did last year. And I don't mean that they're necessarily better. I just think they have a different profile. And I think that's going to be something matchup wise. And I'll tell you guys, the Missouri Drake game, we know a lot of people are keying in on that one, but if you look at it again, we say matchups are what matter in this tournament. I just don't see this as bad of a matchup for Missouri as a lot of people seem to, because Drake really does a poor job of defending inside the arc. They also turn the ball over a lot. I know they play the slowest tempo, but if Missouri just comes out in attack mode, I think Missouri wins this game, and I'm not going to say handily, but if they come out and attack pretty early, I think they're going to be fine.
I think that it's just intriguing because of the head coaches. But the Kansas-Arkansas game, to me, is intriguing because Kansas had a stretch there in the middle of the season where, I mean, they just were on a boat that was putting in more water than they could hold. And then Arkansas has been so topsy-turvy. I mean, it's like we don't know what to make of them. To me, that's an interesting one.
It is. And, you know, I always reference this time of year. I think Theisen does such a great job with they call it their March Mania guide. Now, obviously, a lot of it's for bettors and all that, but it really has some great insights. And one thing I always look at when they put out this, it's just, I don't even know, it's like 80, 100 pages, something like that. One thing I always look at, they find sort of the criteria that meets like the previous Cinderella type teams from previous NCAA tournaments. And it's, you know, teams that are seeded, I think it's 7 or lower, I think is the starting point. And when I looked up yesterday, I'm thinking, okay, let's just kind of see if any of these teams are sitting there, right? Well, I looked it up yesterday and I'm like, wow, Arkansas meets all 17 of the qualifiers. They have a 17 sort of qualifier criteria. Arkansas meets every single one of them. Every single kind of thing that ties the characteristics together from previous Cinderella teams, Arkansas meets it. And then I kept looking a little bit further. And I said, well, guess who else meets the criteria? Kansas. They both meet it. They both mark all 17 of those, you know, potential data points that points towards a Cinderella run for a team in the NCAA tournament. And so I'm thinking, all right, so we got these two teams going up against each other. By the way, the other teams, this shouldn't surprise us. Gonzaga, UConn are two of the others that have all 17. UCLA is another one too, which I think is interesting. But yeah, I mean, this whole game is about who's going to be more consistent, because these have been two of the most inconsistent teams in the country. And I think when it comes down to it, Hunter Dickinson's going to get his points. He's going to get his rebounds. He might go for 30 and 20 in this game. But I think elsewhere, you know, I kind of like what I've seen from Arkansas. And I feel like with Jonas Adu playing well right now, Brazil's playing well right now, maybe they can do some things, you know, that can put some pressure on Kansas, especially in the front court. But man, Kansas is the most experienced team in the field. I've gone back and forth on this game a lot. And again, would I be surprised if either one of these teams won and perhaps pulled the upset on a team that I don't think a lot of people are going to be picking as an upset victim, and that is St. John's?
Yeah, that's interesting too, because I'm like everybody else. I saw CC Sabathia's bracket, and interestingly, he had Alabama beating St. John's in the national championship game. How fascinating would that be?
Yeah, it certainly would. And I think, you know, that's something too, where if we look at it from Alabama's perspective, you know, I said initially, just sort of when I saw the draw, I was thinking, okay, I feel pretty good about this from Alabama's standpoint. Obviously, you know, the matchup you're looking at is Duke, potentially in the Elite Eight. But if you look at sort of everything else, you know, I was like, all right, this feels like something where this is kind of a situation where you feel like things can play into Alabama's favor. And then I looked at one thing in particular, and this is not to make Alabama fans nervous. You know what the bracket looks like. I don't care whether they play Vanderbilt or St. Mary's. I just think those are bad matchups for those two teams against Alabama. You know, in all honesty, I've kind of trended more towards St. Mary's in that game. I know I try to advance as many SEC teams as I can, but again, it's about matchups. But the one that I think is most intriguing to me is that when I went to Bart Torvik, who does, you know, some advanced analytics stuff too, and I filtered it by who are the teams that are playing the best over the past month. And if you just go to the East region, Duke is number one, which shouldn't be that surprising. But then you look at the teams that are in the top 6. Alabama's 6th. BYU is 4th. And I think that's one of those interesting things. You have BYU at 4, VCU's in the top 25 at 23. So I'm thinking, all right, one of these teams getting knocked out. If you're Alabama, you may be hoping that VCU gets knocked out, because BYU, per the data, is playing like a top 5 team in the country over the past month. And so I'm very curious if we get to that matchup. You know, elsewhere in that part of the bracket, Wisconsin 17, Arizona 18. So, you know, we'll see what happens with those two teams. But I do still like the path for Alabama to get to that matchup with Duke. To me, this feels like the East region might be the one that you don't ever want to use the word predictable in the NCAA tournament, but it does feel like the one where the matchups favor these top 2 seeds the best to get to that point to meet each other in the Elite Eight. So I'm kind of fascinated to see if that's how it plays out.
What about Kentucky? How do you feel about Kentucky? Their path is kind of interesting.
They got to have Lamont Butler to me, some form.
I mean, they get Troy out of They get Troy, and then if they're fortunate enough to get through that, I mean, they should, but it's the winner of Texas, Xavier, Illinois. I mean, is Kentucky, if they have Lamont Butler, are they built for a win or two or even three?
I tell you, that part of Kentucky's bracket, another one where initially when it came out, I said, all right, I feel pretty good about that Tennessee-Kentucky Sweet 16 matchup. The further you dive into, I think, the numbers and the matchups, it's worrisome for Kentucky, I feel like. Not necessarily round one, because we know Kentucky only a 10.5-point favorite or something like that, and a 3-14. You're looking at them saying, uh-oh, what does that mean here? And maybe some of that is just the unknowns with the status of everyone and just the injuries and all that. But I think they're going to be fine. But when you look beyond that, Xavier is a team that I think should they beat Texas tonight, which again, we say it's about matchups. I trust Xavier a little bit more than I trust Texas. And I think with the way these teams have played this season, you're never going to count out Trey Johnson, but I just think Xavier can do some things to really frustrate Texas in this game tonight. And, should you get a Xavier Illinois type setup or something like that, right? I feel like that's one of those where if I'm looking at this from Kentucky's standpoint, I wouldn't love either matchup. And I know Kentucky is sort of, they rise to the occasion all the time. We know how many good wins they have on the season. But to me, it's like, think about when Illinois was playing their best basketball. That looked more like a 2 seed than a 6 seed. And again, Xavier's kind of the team that's hot at the right time. They're playing like a top 20 team per the metrics over the past month. And so any of those sort of and look, I'm not going to say this can't happen, but I mean, we've seen Texas beat Kentucky. And so it's kind of one of those things where initially I'm thinking, all right, if this is the Kentucky team we think it could be, they're probably going to be fine. And I do think it's probably setting up for that rematch with Tennessee in the Sweet 16. But if you do look at kind of the matchups maybe beyond round one, and by the way, I'm not knocking Troy here because you guys know
right.
Scott Cross is a great coach. And I think they have, the word I think was used, frantic. They have a frantic profile, meaning there is a lot of variance in terms of how this game could play out for Troy. But I do think if you're looking at this from Kentucky's perspective, you feel like there are some things matchup-wise that can go in your favor. But beyond that, maybe a little bit more tricky than I thought it would be for the Cats beyond round one.
Yeah, I mean, that's what I was wondering. And then another one to me, I of course I like Auburn. I think they're going to be on a mission against Alabama State, but I think it's a tricky game in game 2. But see, a lot of people have been focusing on Louisville because they're 45 minutes from home in Lexington, but I've got Creighton winning that game. I think people are kind of overlooking the Blue Jays.
I think Creighton's a tougher matchup for Auburn than Louisville is. And I think that's where everyone went so far in on the Louisville and Lexington thing. But I think when you look at what Creighton does, again, I would still make Auburn maybe even a not sizable favorite, but I think they would be favored by more than a couple possessions in a game against Creighton. But I do think it's just simply the element of it's an experienced team that has a lot of size. Now, Louisville is a team that also is one of the more experienced teams in this field, and they do have some size too, but they play in a different way. And I feel like with Creighton, they are kind of one of those teams. We've seen them in this spot before be able to have some success. And, also I think, again, when you look at just the way that they match up, like having a 7-1 Kalkbrenner in there is something that's going to matter. You have a very experienced guard in Ashworth and all that. And so I do think it's one where people are sort of just looking at Louisville and feeling like, all right, they're the automatic advance them because, hey, they've only lost 2 games since December the 14th, which is understandable. But I also look at the teams they beat in that stretch, and, well, there's a lot to be desired outside of Clemson. And so I feel like that is one of those things where I wouldn't be surprised at all if Creighton won that game. But, that's too where we talk about past and initial thoughts and all that. After the initial overreaction, I mean, I'm looking up and saying, hey, I don't know why everyone is kind of overreacting to Auburn being where they're at, because I also did something else in terms of the data. If you average the ratings, the KenPom ratings of the opponents that all these top 4 seeds lost to this season, it's a fascinating number. If you combine the average KenPom rating for the teams that Auburn has lost to, they've lost 5 games. The average rating is 6. And it's like, okay, their average loss is to the number 6 team in the country this season. Like, that is remarkable when you look at, like, second, Houston 13, Alabama 13, Tennessee 16, Duke is 17, and so forth. But it's like, I don't know if we should just be completely overreacting to Auburn losing some games here heading into the tournament, because it's who they lost to, I think, is more important than just the loss itself. And that's why I think the more I look at their bracket, I don't hate it at all for Auburn at this point.
All right. You're in Nashville.
Right.
So I got to ask you, how far do you have Lipscomb going?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, they are one of those, I think, kind of, again, if we're looking for profiles for teams that can pull upsets, I mean, we all know the story with Iowa State is going to be just that they're not at full strength. And I think when you look at what, you guys know as well as anybody, when Lydia Acuff gets a chance to put a matchup together and put a game plan together against the team that, you know exactly who Iowa State is. And I think sometimes, again, it's kind of funny because like the Kansas and the Arkansas of the world, you don't know what you're going to get from those two teams. But with Iowa State, you know exactly what you're going to get. They played the same way under TJ Otzelberger. And I feel like with Lipscomb, kind of having that very obvious identity of how they're going to play, especially on the offensive side. Listen, there are some things here, I think, where you have a team like Iowa State, where, yes, they're a great defensive team. But again, I don't know that they're playing their best right now. And I feel like it is kind of one of those things where you get this stylistic matchup with the way, Lipscomb's going to be pretty methodical in the way they run their offense and all those things. I like teams that can make shots from outside. And when you get a tournament like this with your team like Lipscomb, who can just absolutely knock down the three at a very high rate, we all know what that means. We've seen that happen before. That can be the great equalizer. So they come out making shots early. Hey, there's a shot there.
I got him in the Sweet 16. I got him beating Iowa State and then beating Ole Miss. Let's go, Lenny. I've got him on that big stage, man. No doubt. Well, Blake, I know you got a busy schedule. We always appreciate the time. Let everybody follow your coverage of the Southeastern Conference in March Madness.
Yeah, I appreciate it, guys. Yeah, find us on YouTube, Southeastern 16. We will have, we've already gotten half the game previews up. Yeah, 14 first-round game previews. We never thought we'd be doing that many between, Monday and today. But they'll all be there with thoughts on every single first-round game for the SEC teams. And then, of course, we'll have live reaction all week to every single game. So, yeah, you can find us there, Southeastern 16 on YouTube.
Thank you, sir.
Thanks, Blake.
Thanks, guys.
All right, let's get a break in.
You're listening to Talkin' Ball on 97.7 ESPN, The Zone.
Got a wreck on 231 southbound near Steger. That one's coming in as a no injury. And got one on 565 westbound at Greenbrier. It's off the road. Blue lights are slowing things down a bit. We got a working structure fire in Limestone County on Birch Park off McCulley Mill. Dr. Sandman has the Somnodent, a safe, insurance-approved alternative for snoring and sleep apnea. Dr. Randall Sandlin, 350-CARE. Captain Nick in the Valley Skywatch Traffic Center.
Eagle Masonry and Installation. It's right there in the name. Eagle is your one-stop shop for block, stone, or brickwork, monument signs, and outdoor kitchens and fireplaces. Eagle also offers the finest craftsmanship and insulation, including fiberglass or spray foam insulation, and of course, insulation removal. Philip Love and his team have years of experience, bringing the region the best in masonry and insulation services. For more information and a quote, visit insulatewitheagle.com or call 256-755-1556. Eagle saves you time. Eagle saves you money.
This segment of Talkin' Ball is brought to you by University Kia, the #1 volume Kia dealer in the state of Alabama. Located online at universitykia.com.
We're going to wrap up hour one here. Talking Ball 97.7 ESPN. So it's been a fast-moving hour one. I mean, fast-moving. Because they got a lot of stuff to get through. Hey, good news though. Mike Paris. Yeah. Voice of the Jacksonville State or Jack State Gamecocks. Got to get used to saying that. He's going to join us here at the bottom of the hour. Jack State was on the road last night for NIT round one.
Took over Atlanta.
But don't forget, tonight you get round one NIT action. North Alabama traveling to take on Bradley.
The Bradley
tonight.
Braves. Okay, Scott, I got
to ask you a question, though. Right. If we want UNA to go on a run in this.
Yes, we do.
But is this the last? He's only a junior. Is this the last time we see Jakari Lane in a UNA uniform?
He came back last year, had some opportunities. He's going to have them again. I mean, we know Ignatovic over at Lipscomb's going to have opportunities. That's the one thing about the success. If you go on these type runs and have these type of years with great players that are on the mid-major level, they're going to have opportunities. We'll certainly see. And I mean, Chikari's had one of the great careers in UNA history, and his boy Tay Fields is on the team and should be back next year. So if Tony Pujol, if he can just retain most of his roster,
right?
I mean, they might be the favorite in the Atlantic Sun Conference next year because they tied with Lipscomb for the conference championship and then lost a hard-fought game in the finals over at Lipscomb. So I just think overall it's going to depend on if he can retain Jakari Lane, because I know Jakari is going to have some opportunities, no doubt about it.
All right, let's get a break in. We're going to kick off hour number 2 next.
This is Brent Musburger's VSiN Action Update on 97.7 ESPN The Zone. AI-powered betting models to help you make sharper picks during March Madness. Free 7-day trial available now at rhythm.com. That's RITHMM.com.
A dramatic Hail Mary pass and bucket gives Alabama State a win over St. Francis 70-68 in the NCAA tournament first 4 in Dayton. Up next, Alabama State meets Auburn at Rupp Arena in Lexington as a 31.5-point underdog, 165.5 the total. Alabama and Robert Morris Friday in Cleveland. Crimson Tide laying 23.5 points. Troy meets Kentucky in Milwaukee Friday. Wildcats 11.5-point favorites. Jacksonville State has a 6.5-point dog in Atlanta, beat Georgia Tech 81-64 in the first round of the NIT. The Gamecocks headed to the second round of the NIT. For more, go to VSIN.com.
WCZN, Union Grove, Huntsville, Alabama. 97.7 ESPN The Zone.
SportsMed is the official team physicians of the Rocket City Trash Pandas. And if the pros trust SportsMed, you can too. SportsMed provides every service you might need for complete orthopedic care, specializing in orthopedic surgery, sports medicine, joint replacement, spine surgery, neurosurgery, and podiatry. And they offer their own brace shop, in-house full-body MRI, physical therapy, walk-in clinic, and so much more. 4 locations and on the web at sportsmedalabama.com.
This hour brought to you by SportsMed Orthopedic and Spine Center. Online at sportsmedalabama.com. Welcome to Talkin' Ball with Scott Tyson and Drew DeArmond. Call into the Neighbors Wealth Management Hotline now, 256-576-4977. That's 256-576-4977. Now, here's Scott and Drew.
Welcome back. Hour 2, Talking Ball, SportsMed Orthopedic Surgery and Spine Center. They're dedicated to providing care that improves lives. 256-881-5151. Give them a call, and they'll take care of you. SportsMed. You can find them online at sportsmedalabama.com. Look them up. We had Dr. Thomas Ricks in the studio. He sent a text yesterday saying he had so much fun with us.
That was a neat conversation, especially about the Carson Beck angle, because I was trying to more understand the football injuries.
He's got a lot of little knowledge in him. So
should have maybe picked his brain, see if he's a gearhead and he could figure out cars, but didn't have a problem this morning.
No problems this morning, huh? None?
It wasn't like I was driving a transformer or something.
Okay,
but Bumblebee was trying to take it over or something.
So we mentioned Alabama State getting the win, St. Francis last night, and they will take on Auburn. So it's an in-state matchup in the NCAA tournament. And you know what I did not realize until just a moment ago, that Alabama and UAB have only met one time.
Did you have to bring this up?
I didn't have to. But it's because Auburn and Alabama State are playing, but I did not realize, because I know Auburn and Troy have faced each other. I don't know. I know Auburn and South Alabama. I know Alabama and South Alabama have. But I did not realize.
He's probably listening. He needs to call back. I mean, we didn't get a chance to get to him in the first hour.
Yeah.
He already was mad at me about the
I didn't realize, though, that they've only met one time on the
Final
hardwood.
Four. But, yeah, he's probably angry again because you're bringing this up. This is disgusting.
Why? Okay. It was 93.
93. It was James Robinson's last game. They played UAB in the first round of the NIT in Coleman Coliseum. They lost by 2.
So they've never faced each other in the regular season.
Never even one other time.
Wow.
This is about as painful as me being in 8th grade and watching the first half of what looked like a beat down against Peanut Butter and Jelly and USA in the first round. By the time I got home in just enough time to watch the last 2 minutes after Michael Ansley fouled out and watch Ronnie Arrow run across the court like a jackass because South Alabama got lucky and beat Alabama. But, of course, Alabama has played USA since then in regular seasons and beat them down. But
they actually traveled to Mobile, didn't they?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because Mark Godfrey's dad was the athletic director there, and Alabama's played South. But they have not played UAB since that time, and they've played them in baseball. They've played them in other sports. Have never played them in football and only played them once in basketball. To say that they would have beaten the living piss out of UAB, in the recent past and even under Mark Godfrey, I think is correct. I think Alabama would have, if they played regularly, would have controlled that series. But there's a lot of animosity from the Gene Bartow, Wimp Sanderson years, and they don't play each other. So Alabama hasn't had a chance to play UAB. Now UAB's had some really good teams, and I'm sure they could have given Alabama a run for their money, but come on, get real. Alabama's going to win that game 9 times out of 10, but the one time they did play in the NIT, I think it was 56-54, stick your head in the toilet, and UAB wins the game. So, you know what I'm saying?
Oh,
Alabama's lost to them in baseball,
right.
For a few times, especially lately. Now, not earlier this year, it was 6-3 Bama, but again, but it's the only time they've ever played, and so it's a lot of UAB fans hold it over Alabama fans' heads, blah, blah, blah.
256-576-4977. I didn't mean to bring up some painful memories. I just am shocked, though, because
game wasn't even on television. It was on the radio.
Really?
I did not go.
Really? Not even on TV?
No, it wasn't on TV.
Well, because it was an NIT game back in the 90s, early 90s. Yeah.
They didn't televise all those.
No, they just televised a few of them.
Mm-hmm. But I will say this, give a shout out to Michael Southern, who's been on the show from Bama Hoops history. He did find a very interesting video clip from Baton Rouge, Louisiana back in 1976 when my guy, Coach Val, who I worked for at Huntsville High, and his undefeated Indiana Hoosiers, who were the last undefeated team in the history of the NCAA. I know a few of those UCLA teams did too, but this is the 32-0 Hoosiers, and they beat Alabama. But in those days, of course, it wasn't even a 64-team tournament. It was a regionalized NCAA tournament, and I believe it was only 32 teams. But Alabama, beat the hell out of North Carolina in round 1. This was a Sweet 16 game. They played Indiana, and it was a 2-point game with 5 minutes to go. Ken Benson, who was a good player but a turd, who ran some guy named Larry Bird off, who, by the way, for the rest of his career, and this is why I love Larry Bird.
Right.
After Ken Benson treated him so piss poorly, Larry never forgot. So every time he played against Ken Benson in the NBA, he gave him the business every time. In other words, like, I'm so much better than you. Like, I'm never going to forget the way you treated me, and I'm going to embarrass you every time I play against you. And Benson was an All-American. He was a really good player, but, Leon Douglas was too. And so what happened was Leon had 4 fouls. I think Benson did too. And there was a collision, and Benson was moving. It was absolutely a piss poor, pathetic call that some tick turd who was running in from midcourt decided to call a charge. Now, it doesn't mean Alabama's going to win the game.
Right.
Indiana was still up 2 at that time with 5 minutes to go, but it was very pivotal in changing the momentum, as it looked like Leon Douglas was going to go to the line and have a chance to tie the game and potentially foul out Kent Tick Turd. And then, of course, They called the charge. And then, Indiana goes on to win the game, win the national championship. And Bob Knight even said it was the best team they played all year because they should have been in different regions. It was complete BS the way they did hey, there you go. It's what we were talking about to start the show. Stop regionalizing the tournament and start seeding it correctly.
Right. There we go.
With it. Got to get with it on the high school level in Alabama, too. Everybody needs to modernize their thinking and quit thinking about an oblong ball all the time.
Well, you know what, though? You bring up a good point, thinking about the oblong ball.
I love the oblong ball.
No, I know, but I think
dislike it.
Does that have a lot to do with
At
us
all.
thinking? No, hold on. Does that have a lot to do with us thinking North Carolina doesn't belong in the tournament, where we get wrapped up in this football mentality that the college football playoff committee goes with the most deserving teams? Not the best team sometimes. But did basketball lean more towards the best teams versus the most deserving teams?
No, they went with a brand with North Carolina. That's all they went with, and their damn athletic director was the head of the committee. That's all they went with.
He recused himself.
Whatever. But I'm just saying. I mean. And they won their game. They were very impressive against San Diego State.
But does our football mentality carry over into when we see the brackets for the basketball tournament? Does our football mentality carry over into that? And do we judge the brackets with our football mentality?
Some do. I don't. I want to see the best teams and most deserving teams get in. And I thought, there was other teams that deserved in Indiana or West Virginia. I thought they had better resumes, even a Boise State, than freaking North Carolina. I understand the brand, and North Carolina is a blue blood. They always will be. But this year, I didn't think they were good enough to get into the NCAA tournament, quite frankly. And they may prove me wrong. They've already won one game by, big time. I mean, we'll see what they do going forward. How they do in the round of 64, and if they can get to the round of 32, we'll see. But I didn't even have them beating San Diego State, so I flunked that one.
All right, this will make Jeff mad. Got to bring it up because it's fun to kind of stroll back into memory lane. And obviously I wasn't even around for this. Neither were you or anyone else in this building. On this day, 1966, Texas Western gets the upset win over Kentucky to win the national championship. It's an historic one because the Miners, as you remember, were the first team to start an all-black starting five in the championship game.
Yep.
And that was in Maryland. They played that one in Maryland.
Yep.
And that was Pat Riley's Kentucky team. He was on that Kentucky team. Yep. Adolph Rupp was the head coach of Kentucky.
Great team.
And as you mentioned, Dom Haskins. And now it's UTEP. It's University of Texas El Paso is the name now, but it was Texas Western back then.
While you were gone, Steve and I did a very brief 45-minute show live from the Conference USA tournament.
Right.
And we got a fist bump from the mascot at UTEP, and I asked if his name was Haskey. But I don't think it was. So I wanted to know if there was maybe Haskey the Miner.
That would be very cool.
Yeah, because of Don the Bear. I mean, I got a chance to watch him coach. He was in the early 90s. He was still going. I mean, he coached at UTEP pretty much his entire career. He stayed there. And Don Haskins was a hell of a coach and had a great run. And they won the national championship and beat a very, very good Kentucky team. And then, in the national championship game, made history. And certainly that was I believe the movie was called Glory Road.
It was, yeah.
So, I mean, that's a great moment in history, no question about it, and a great one for Don, who was definitely a Hall of Famer. And when I think of UTEP basketball, that's the first thing that pops into my head is Don Haskins, and then a close second is a two-time run for Tim Floyd, who was the coach at UTEP.
Oh, yeah. Tim Floyd. He liked himself some beer and women.
And some chewing gum.
Tim Floyd liked sorority parties and beer and a lot of
Are
other
you thinking
things.
of Larry Eustace too? Because I'm thinking about that.
My bad. Yeah, Larry Eustace was the one that liked it.
Is that the one you're thinking about?
Yeah, I'm thinking of Larry Eustace.
Yeah, you're thinking of Larry Eustace from Colorado State, Southern
Tim
Mississippi, Iowa
Floyd.
State.
So when I left, Tim Floyd was introduced as the Iowa State head coach.
I think Eustachy followed him.
Yes, he did. And Tim Floyd was introduced.
Larry liked to go to frat parties.
Yes, Larry was the one that liked the beer and the women. Tim Floyd liked the money, and he left Iowa State to go to the Bulls.
Gum. Yeah, Jerry Krause thought Tim Floyd was a genius. Okay, and Tim was a really good basketball
coach. But Tim Floyd had probably one of the hardest acts to follow.
Yeah,
I mean, outside of Kalen DeBoer,
right,
trying to replace Nick Saban.
Well, I'll give you.
That was probably one of the hardest jobs to walk into, was what Tim Floyd had to walk into, replacing Phil Jackson with no Michael Jordan.
With no roster.
Walking into the Bulls and being the head coach, and all of a sudden it just being
Jerry
miserable.
Built one of the great teams of all time, but then thought he could dismantle it and do it again. I mean, it's just absolutely insanity. You've got the greatest player of all time. LeBron James couldn't even clean his bathroom properly, and he's 35 years old. He's still at the peak of his play, and you decide that he and Scottie Pippen, because you roped Scottie into signing a bad contract, decided not to reward him, and then you had Dennis Rodman. Yes, he was crazy, but Dennis fit perfectly with that team. You could have brought Phil Jackson back. You could have brought the entire roster back. You probably could have won at least 2 more championships.
So
you must be nuts.
Tim Floyd's first roster. We're really going different here. Elton Brand, Ron Artest, Jamal Crawford, Marcus Fizer, and Ron Mercer and Brad Miller.
I got a good Ron Mercer story. I got it from Nashville, from one of our guests, David Sisk, who had Ron Mercer because he was with the Tennessee Travelers and on the Nike EYBL circuit for a long time. And he and one of his guys, they had Mercer. And Mercer, as we all know, played on one of the greatest Kentucky. Now we'll please Jeff. He won't be as mad. He's not throwing probably darts at my face on some in his basement, it's with some dartboard where he hates me, but he'll like this story. By the way, Rick Pitino is the greatest coach in Kentucky history. I don't really care that the arena's named after Adolph Rupp. Really doesn't bother me. I think Rick Pitino is, I think, the man. I just think, because he brought Kentucky back from the doldrums and built what was almost a 3-in-a-row dynasty. That he won at 96. They lost in 97 in overtime to Arizona, and then he left Tubby Smith, the national championship team, in 98. Jeff Shepard was the MVP. But I'm just going to give you a great story. He had Ron Mercer, and Ron Mercer was part of that 96 team, that was so loaded. Antoine Walker didn't even start. I mean, they had NBA players all over the place, and they went to see Mercer play Louisville. Kentucky played Louisville.
Okay.
Beat Louisville unmercifully bad by 30, and they put Mercer in the game. And it was obvious as soon as Mercer went in the game that they were passing the ball. Mercer was wide open. They were not passing Mercer the ball. This looked like Michael Jordan getting frozen out of the All-Star game when Isaiah Thomas was playing. But this was what was going on. They were not passing him the ball. And they asked Ron after the game, they said, "Ron, you were wide open. Why are your teammates not throwing you the ball?" And Mercer just looked at him and said, "Coach Pitino said, until I learn how to guide somebody, I don't get to touch the ball. I can go in the game, but I can't touch the ball and shoot it. I have to learn how to guide." I'm just the way he would say. He's got to learn how to guide somebody. So he basically froze Ron Mercer out and said, "Ron, I'm going to play you in the game, but you have not earned the opportunity to touch or shoot the basketball." So they played 4-on-5 on purpose until Ron Mercer bought into the fact that he had to guide somebody. That's why Rick Pitino is the man.
Yes. Yeah. All right. We gotta get. Hey, do you got?
Can you imagine trying that now? Because Ron Mercer was a first-team high school All-American, a McDonald's All-American. If you tried that now, the agent
be in the portal so fast.
He'd be in the portal so fast. He wouldn't even finish the first game.
No.
I mean, as soon as he found out he was being frozen out, it would be so and so's already entered the transfer portal.
Do you got $2?
On me, no. I have $2 in my bank account.
Okay. I know where you can spend that $2.
Oh, boy.
And go see a basketball game tomorrow.
Wow. Okay.
I'll fill you in next.
You're listening to Talkin' Ball on 97.7 ESPN, The Zone.
Got a couple of wrecks on 231 now. We got one near Steger, and we got one near Patterson Lane. Both of those report southbound. They cleared the one on 565 westbound at Greenbrier, got one on I-65 southbound at 565, and got one in Decatur, Point Mallard, and 6th Avenue. With more than 30 years
experience, D&L Refrigeration can save you money on those heating and air conditioning repairs. 256-652-1207. State license 08091. Captain Nick in the Valley Skywatch Traffic Center.
By now, you know about Eagle Masonry and Insulation, and maybe you know that Eagle also does landscaping and dirt work. But how about after paint work? Shower doors, shelving, and mirrors, all taken care of by Eagle, the same Eagle that takes care of all your masonry, insulation, and landscaping needs. Eagle brings the same level of expertise to all these disciplines, and they're ready to provide you with a free quote. The website is the same, insulatewitheagle.com, as is the phone number, 256-755-1556. Give them a call and see what Eagle can do for you. Eagle saves you time. Eagle saves you money.
Isn't the story of the prodigal son an amazing story? Basically, a rowdy boy who literally wished his father dead, ran away, and consumed his wealth with hard and fast living. Yet the father looked for his return every day, and when the boy got tired of eating pig slop, he decided to return. What did the father do? As soon as he saw that boy, he ran to him, threw his arms around him, and killed the fatted calf for a great celebration. Hey, I'm John Dees, pastor of the Cross Point Church. If you're looking for a church home, come see us, smack dab across the street from the YMCA in Madison.
Hi, my name is Dan Aldridge. I'm here to let you know about the Aldridge Law Firm and the soon-to-be-announced Legal Town Center. I've been practicing law in Alabama since 1984, and I also practice in Tennessee. And I'm from North Alabama, and I'm here to represent you and take care of your legal needs. For many of us, hiring an attorney is not high on the priority list and maybe a little scary. But it's something that we all need at some point. So by all means, do your homework. And if you need representation for car accident, wrongful death, medical malpractice, nursing home abuse, or estate planning, or any other matter, just give us a call at 256-534-3188. And you can email me at Dan, that is Dan at danaldridgelaw.com. Dan at danaldridgelaw.com. God bless America.
No representation is made that the quality of legal services to be performed is greater than the quality of legal services performed by other lawyers.
It is that time of year. Time to get your brackets ready to go. Steve Moulton here with 97.7 ESPN The Zone. And again, it's time to test out your basketball knowledge. We are your home for March Madness, but also brackets as well. Simply sign up, head over to our website, 977ESPN.com, or our social media sites at 977ESPN on Twitter, Facebook, or Instagram. But head over to our website, and a link will be there for you to join in, 977ESPN.com. Our winner will get an overnight stay at the Lodge at Gunnersville State Park, a foursome at Cherokee Ridge, and $100 worth of food. We'll also have prizes for second and third place as well. It's our Bracket Challenge 2025 style. And head over to our website, 977ESPN.com, and sign up today.
Can't get a ticket? Never miss a second of Huntsville Havoc hockey.
It's to Alger. Alger back to Ruffin. Over to Buster. Who you gonna call? Buster Larson with the winner.
With the Havoc Zone. Only on 97.7 ESPN.com and the 97.7 ESPN The Zone app.
Hi, welcome back. Talking Ball, 97.7 ESPN The Zone. Got Tyson, Drew, DeArmond. It is 8:22 on a Wednesday morning. Mike Paris, voice of the Jackson State Gamecocks, going to join us at the bottom of the hour. Jack State on the road last night in Atlanta, taking on Georgia Tech in the first round of the NIT. They get it done. He'll recap us everything that happened there. And I asked you going to break if you had $2.
Yeah.
that you wanted to spend, and it's going to come as a shock to you, I think, maybe. Tomorrow in Lexington, these are the 2 sessions that you can choose from to view, and you got to have a ticket for both sessions. You can't stay for all 4 games because they're 2 different sessions. Louisville, Creighton, Auburn, and Alabama State, that is 1 session. The average ticket price, or the cheapest ticket price on StubHub, is $54 to get into that session.
Mm-hmm.
The second session features Tennessee, Wofford, UCLA, and Utah State. Right now, you can go to StubHub and get a ticket for $2
to see Tennessee,
to see that second session in Lexington. $2 will get you in the door.
Would I spend $2 to go watch Tennessee? Well, hell to the no, I wouldn't. I'm not even taking a free credential to go. I watch it from my couch, but I'm not going
right.
away.
But this is, I mean, think about this. I mean, $2.
Yeah.
$2 will get you in the door in Lexington to go watch that game.
Wow.
To watch that session, I should say, not just that game. 2 college games in the NCAA tournament.
$1 a piece.
$1 a piece.
Wow. Sounds like one of these McValue things from McDonald's.
B. Rich would spend the money. He's back
for Tennessee. Hell no.
He's back with us now. Good morning, B. Rich.
What's up, B. Rich?
Good morning. Drew, you almost caused me to have an accident. I nearly drove off the road when you said you had Tennessee in your Final Four.
I understand. Yeah, I got you.
The serious question, though. Do you think they have enough offense to get there? Because that's the reason. I know Chaz is playing really good ball right now, and Zakai's Zakai. But do you think they have enough offense to get to the Final Four?
I do. I mean, watching them play Alabama, even though Alabama had them beat, I mean, I thought they played at a pretty high level, and Florida certainly controlled the game, but they made shots, and they didn't have to hold the game in the 60s. I think this Tennessee team is a little bit better. Now, the Ivisic kid or whatever, I think he's a mental midget. He makes a lot of stupid mistakes, because actually I thought that they were going to pull away from Auburn and win it comfortably, and then they started turning it over and things of that nature. But if Zakai stays on the floor, he's the big key, because he's the engine for their team. I think they can beat Houston. Because see, here's the thing. That's probably going to be a rock fight if they play each other anyway, because Houston's not a great offensive team most times either, and they're really physical and they rebound. But Rick Barnes, they don't mind swapping paint like that. And so I just think it – now, if it were a Duke-Tennessee matchup, I wouldn't like Tennessee's chances, even though a couple of years ago Rick Barnes knocked John Shire out. But I think this Duke team is better than that one from 2 years ago. And so I would think Duke might have too much firepower. But I just think – from a matchup perspective. And then if they get to Kentucky for a third time, which is what I have them doing, look, I mean, Kentucky's banged up. They lost to them twice. I got to believe that Kentucky's not going to beat them a third time. And so,
I'm with you there. I just think Houston, I think I've got them in the Elite Eight playing Houston. I think Houston's a little bit better than them offensively this year, but to me, the key for Tennessee is gaining. If they can get, like when he has games when he goes off,
he did against
they
Florida.
Play really, really, they play really, really well.
Meshack is good too.
See.
Yeah. I mean, he's a
now, Drew, you're gonna make me drive off the road again.
I mean,
now we're talking about Meshack, and I'm still not over the shot he hit. Like, of all the guys that could have hit that shot, Meshack, really? That's a buzzer?
Yeah.
Like, Drew, you're killing me, my man.
Yeah. I know. I understand. I mean, I think that I like I said, I've got 3 SEC teams. I nearly went with 4, but I just couldn't quite pull myself to do that. That's never happened before. I wish it would, because then it would unequivocally prove that the SEC is the greatest conference this season of all time. There would be nobody, not Dan Woken, not Dennis Doofus, who's fixing to retire. None of them could say anything if it was an all SEC Final Four. Dennis would probably just stick his head in the toilet and retire early. And then Woken, he would go cover whatever tennis tournament's going on.
Tennis tournament. I'm with you. Hey, Drew, if you end up going somewhere Friday afternoon to watch the Alabama game, shoot me a text or something if you want to get together.
Sure.
I'd definitely be in on that Friday. So
No problem.
y'all have a good one.
Yes,
Thanks,
sir.
fellas.
Thanks for calling back in. Yeah, he's not.
You picking Tennessee?
Well, as much as I hate him, and I do, I mean, come on.
Right.
And by the way, the greatest baseball team of all time lost a game last night. The Tennessee Vols. They lost their first baseball game.
Yeah, they did. They won.
So
They
they're
won
not even
20
the
in a
best team
row.
in their own state. East Tennessee State beat them 7-6. Now they may come and and waylay Alabama. According to the Tennessee fans, Alabama has no chance. That they're going to steamroll Alabama and they're going to win the national championship with more rolled bats and doctored baseballs. You know what I'm saying?
$2. You can go see Tennessee
Is
play.
that how much it costs to roll a bat? I don't know how much it costs.
$2. You can go see Tennessee play tomorrow.
Right.
It's only 5 hours away.
Yeah.
$2.
Hell no.
Utah State and UCLA. You can go see Mick Cronin.
Yeah. Go Mick. Well, I thought Mick might want to go to Indiana, but he's not.
Nope, Jared DeVries.
No,
Yeah,
it's Darian DeVries. Darian DeVries there.
So
You're thinking of his brother that played football.
Yeah, Jared, he was an All-American at Iowa.
He was.
Darren actually played for Applington High School. I got to remember this right.
Okay.
He played for Applington High School in 1992, is the year that I graduated.
Right.
So we're the same age, he and DeVries are. And he played in their state championship game in the well, they call it the A state championship game. Played against Jess Settles, and Jess went on to play at Iowa.
I remember. Yeah, he was good.
Yeah,
player.
he was good until back problems. He was a undersized big, and played in the paint and loved to bang around, and ended up with back issues, and would had to stop playing basketball and stuff. But that was a heck of a final. It was DeVries and Settles in the state championship game that year. And they had the fan backboards. Remember the fan ones, the glass fan ones? And that was still Iowa in 1992. But I mean, that's why everybody thought that they penciled him in for the Iowa opening because of his ties there, because of growing up there in that one small 1A town, small school,
being at Drake,
and then Iowa, all that stuff. They thought that that's where he would end up, and obviously ends up in Indiana as the head coach.
We now thinking Ben McCollum.
So that's the speculation. That's the speculation that Beth gets, but they're not doing anything while Drake is in the NCAA tournament. So if Drake would somehow get bounced early, Ben McCollum's name, I think, would surface again. So be a heck of a rise for him. Heck of a rise going
Within
Division
2
II.
years. Yeah.
Division II, going up to Drake 1 year, bringing 4 of your guys with you.
Yeah.
Now, granted, he was a powerhouse in Division II, powerhouse at Division II.
He gave Nova some beatdowns.
Yes, he did. All right. Speaking of beatdowns, Jack State delivered one last night to Georgia Tech.
They took it over.
Mike Paris was there. He was on the call. He's going to be with us next.
You're listening to Talkin' Ball on 97.7 ESPN, The Zone.
From the Fox 54 Weather Center, I'm Chief Meteorologist Jordan Dressman. A mostly cloudy sky this afternoon. Temperatures climbing into the upper 60s and lower 70s. We are going to be quite windy across North Alabama, southern and middle Tennessee. Sustained winds 20 to 30 miles per hour. Could get some wind gusts up to 45 miles per hour. Scattered showers and thunderstorms are going to move into the Tennessee Valley as we head into the overnight, early into your Thursday morning. That activity won't stick around too terribly long. We'll be dry Thursday afternoon. A partly sunny to mostly cloudy sky Thursday afternoon. We are going to be much colder across the Tennessee Valley. Highs only climbing into the mid and upper 40s. I'm Chief Meteorologist Jordan Dressman on your home for ESPN Radio, 97.7 ESPN, The Zone.
Got a couple of wrecks on 231 now. We got one near Steger, and we got one near Patterson Lane. Both of those report southbound. They cleared the one on 565 westbound at Greenbrier, got one on I-65 southbound at 565, and got one in Decatur, Point Mallard, and 6th Avenue. With more than 30 years experience, D&L Refrigeration can save you money on those heating and air conditioning repairs. 256-652-1207. State license 08091. Captain Nick in the Valley Skywatch Traffic Center.
Mike Rowe here with a quick question. Have you noticed cracks in your drywall, chimney, or exterior walls? I hope not, because if you have, they could be indications that you've got a much bigger problem with your foundation. That's where AFS comes in, a groundworks company. They can honestly assess your situation and create a plan to stabilize your foundation. Schedule your free inspection at afsrepair.com/row. And while you're there, check out my latest dirty job. It's a good one.
Licensed in all states where work is performed. See website for details.
You don't have to go somewhere else just so you can go somewhere new. Plan your next vacation with Huntsville International Airport and Breeze Airways. Enjoy friendly, convenient, nonstop travel to some of the most exciting destinations in the U.S., including the home of iconic casinos, world-class shows, dining, and entertainment. Las Vegas. With flights starting as low as just $79, Breeze has got you covered with easy, breezy, nonstop flights to Las Vegas. Book nonstop to Las Vegas now at flybreeze.com.
Hey folks, this is Arthur Seaton, managing partner at University Kia, proudly saying Roll Tide and War Eagle. Stop into University Kia today and shop one of the area's largest selection of new Kias, including Fortes, Seltos, Telluride, and Popular Carnival, and fully electric EV6. View all the great specials at universitykia.com and get pre-approved in minutes so you can drive home your new Kia you really want, because we want to see you in a University Kia.
I'm here with Stan McDonald of Jacob Title. Stan, I've heard that every real estate closing at Jacob Title is a very big deal. Why is that?
Wes, I'm reminded of a very impactful statement that I heard from Coach Gene Stallings years ago when he talked about big games and little games. He said he didn't like that comparison. He says, because try losing one of those little games. And if you ever do, it ends up being the biggest game all year long. Well, it's the same thing with real estate closings. Every game, every closing is a very big deal at Jacob Title. Because when it's your closing and your contract on the line, it's a very big deal. And we understand that at Jacob Title.
So it sounds like whether your client is a first-time residential buyer or a multi-million-dollar investor, they can expect your A game.
That's exactly right. As a matter of fact, when you bring your real estate closing to us at Jacob Title, we understand it's all about trust and confidence. And when Stan McDonald tells you that a chicken dips snuff, you can look under his wing for the box.
And like Beebs likes to say, there's no doubt about it.
Hey, do you have heating and air issues as the springtime starts to roll around? Hey, there's just one name you need to know. Talent Heating and Air. #1 heating and air business right here in the Tennessee Valley.
Yeah, we're locally based. If you call, you're going to get somebody based in Huntsville. Mentioned in spring earlier, we can actually do indoor air quality products, so we can help alleviate those allergy problems you're having in your house.
All right, Thomas from Talent Heating and Air, give them the number that when they call, somebody live and local will pick up.
That's 256-503-4490.
And you can always head to the World Wide Web and find Talent Heating and Air, and you guys will still respond.
That's talenthvac.com. If you don't want to talk to a person right away, you can fill out a form on there and get scheduled for a visit.
That's Talent Heating and Air. They're live, they're local. It's Talent Heating and Air.
AL certain number 21014.
This will turn journalism on its ear.
Watch our stream on WCZN TV on Twitch and YouTube.
But you are the greatest hero in American history.
We are 97.7 ESPN, The Zone.
Welcome back. Talking Ball 97.7 ESPN, The Zone. We touched on it before the break last night. Jack State traveling over to the ATL, taking on Georgia Tech in the first round of the NIT, and it was an historic win last night for the Gamecocks. It gave Jack State its second win over an active power conference team in program history, and the first, you ready for this one? Since beating Alabama during the 1952-1953 season.
Oh, this has just been one of them days. We gotta remember every time Alabama lost. But hey, This
I didn't mean to do it again. Honestly, I didn't.
But
it's big for Jack State.
This is my father's alma mater. This is a great school. It's a beautiful campus. Great folks over there. The Pete's a beautiful facility. They have beautiful facilities in every sport because of the way they've invested in their athletics. They have an outstanding athletic director. They have, Rich Rod just won the Conference USA championship. Of course, they've moved on to the Charles Kelly era because Rich Rod went back to West Virginia. But the football program is very healthy right now. Ray Harper got Jack State to the finals of the CUSA tournament, where they lost to a really good Liberty team. But then they went on the road and took over Atlanta last night and not just blew out an ACC school 81-64. And that was the Jack State Gamecocks. And the voice of the Gamecocks for the last 42 years, who's become a really good friend of mine, unmistakable voice. Mike Parrish has been kind enough once again to put up with a late text from me. And then I know it was a late night last night in Atlanta, but come on with us this morning and talk some Gamecock basketball. Good morning, Mike. How are you?
I'm good. Thanks, guys. Appreciate the opportunity to chat with you guys.
No, I mean, what a game last night, Mike. I mean, I'll be blunt. I was watching the first four, but I was trying to monitor other scores, and very eyebrow raising from our guy Thomas Ashworth from AL.com, who was there watching this game and covering it live, and then seeing the videos and the still pictures. A lot of Gamecock Nation came to Atlanta to see this.
We got a pretty good alumni base in the Atlanta area, and it was a fun night. I'll put it that way. You don't get these nights too often to go in and look. I know Georgia Tech's not Duke or anything. Right. They were middle of the pack. They finished 8th. They went 10-10 in the league. They had won 6 of their last 8, 9 of their last 13. Duke only beat them 7 in the tournament last week in the quarterfinals in the ACC. It's pretty sweet to go in there, quite honestly, and to beat an ACC, a Power 4 on their home floor. And look, it wasn't a fluke. I mean, you could say we dominated the game, never trailed, led for 38 and a half minutes. And, once we got the lead to double digits, they never got it back to single digits. As y'all know, basketball, a game of runs. And I thought a couple of times they were about ready. The spark might have been there, and the crowd was trying to get into it. DeArmond Pierre hit a 3 one time that calmed it down. And as I was told by somebody that one of our fans was over there, every time it felt like, maybe they're getting ready to make a move, somebody, one of the fans said, shut them up. And sure enough, we were able to hit a 3 or do something. It was everybody literally contributed for us last night. We only got 8 scholarship guys, and we got 3 walk-ons, so we dressed 11. And it was pretty cool. The last minute of the game, Ray Harper puts the 3 walk-ons in, and one of those guys gets his first bucket of the season.
Wow.
In an NIT game,
Wow.
And so it's and you could argue maybe that it meant a little more to our guys than it did to them, but still, it's not a game you're supposed to win, quite honestly, on the road at a place like that. So it was. I enjoyed that one. I'll tell you that.
Well, you mentioned the 3 ball, Mike. I mean, 15 of them went down last night.
Wow.
As good as we've shot it, probably in a month or so. And, we had a winning streak in there where we won 8 in a row. We led the league most of the year in Conference USA thanks to that 8-game winning streak. We had not lost a home game at that point in time, and those were the 2 big deals there. And we just haven't shot it as well over the last couple of weeks, I guess, whereas Liberty, if we'd have shot it like that against them Saturday, that game, the way they shot, it'd have been a 120 to 119 game or something like that in the championship game on Saturday. Had we been able to make shots like we did last night. But, DeArmond Pierre knocks down 5 of them. Jowie Tuka had 4 threes. Marcellus Brigham, I think, ended up with 4 as well. So it was, I think 18 was the most we'd hit in a game this season. So it was, we made shots, but the other thing, we also out-rebounded Tech 41-30 on their home court. And you normally, against the Power 4, you don't go in and do stuff like that on the road.
Well, and Mike, you've been blessed to see national championships and broadcast them and all in the big 3, football, basketball, baseball. Jacksonville State on the Division II level was a powerhouse. Now they've made the full-fledged transition to Division I. How big a win is this for this program and for Ray Harper in this newly reconfigured NIT to win a game over an ACC opponent like that?
Well, I don't think we're going to beat them on the recruiting trail on a kid. You know, maybe once out of 100 kids, you might be able to beat somebody like Georgia Tech or something. But, you know, it's something you walk in or you're recruiting a kid sitting in front of the folks, whatever. Hey, we beat Georgia Tech on their home court, you know, in postseason play, and we got to the NIT. So, you know, we had not been in postseason play in the NCAA tournament or any postseason event in Division I until Ray Harper became our head coach. And now this is 4 times in 9 years. We've been in 2 NCAA tournaments. We played in the CBI. We got to the semifinals of that tournament. As a matter of fact, it's 7 years ago today that the tornado hit Jacksonville, Alabama back in 2018. And we were actually in Conway, Arkansas in the quarterfinals of the CBI in 2018. I'm sitting in the hotel room watching coverage of the tornado after we had won our game that night, as a matter of fact. And we went on to the semis and got beat at North Texas. And now here we are in the NIT. And, you know, I'm an old guy, older than you guys are, but at one time, this was the event. It was not the NCAA tournament.
That's true.
Schools opted to play in the NIT over the NCAA tournament. Now, I guess the mid to late 50s, the worm sort of turned, as the OC and goes there, and then the NCAA tournament took off then in the 60s and whatnot. But, you know, as I heard somebody say last night, it's still the granddaddy of the postseason tournaments. And, you know, it went down probably the luster of playing in it, but now that the NCAA owns it and controls it, so I think that's added a little bit more to it. And to say that you know, played in a postseason tournament, you win your first ever game in the NIT, and you beat Georgia Tech on their home court. It was Ray Harper's 600th win last night as a college head coach as well. So, you know, it was a special night. I think it's a big deal, as a matter of fact. And again, you know, I think it helps you some in recruiting to be able to say we were in postseason play and we went and did this to Georgia Tech.
In that first round game in the NIT can be awfully tough because lots of times you get teams that they do come up short in getting to the tournament, kind of like Jack State. I mean, they lead the Conference USA in the regular season. They get to the finals. They come up short in getting to the big dance. And lots of times these games are hard to play because your emotions are so raw still from playing in those conference championship games that it's hard to get up for. It looked like last night Jack State was ready from the beginning.
Yeah, honestly, I think that in postseason play, if you're not the NCAA, that's the big thing. Do your guys want to play? Do they want to be there? And I think maybe our guys, well, I know our guys wanted it. And, you know, maybe they wanted a little more than Tech did last night. So I think they, you know, wanted to keep playing, and it showed with the effort. And, you know, all the hustle plays, the 50-50 balls. I mean, you know, it just seemed like everything went our way in that one last night against them.
Well, it looks like now it's going to be a trip out to the West Coast. Either one seed, UC Riverside, or Northern Colorado, or is something else? Could something else happen? Because it's a little. I know sometimes with the availabilities and things of that nature, floors available, it can be a little unpredictable. What's the outlook right now for Jack State?
Well, Cal Irvine, the Anteaters.
Right.
I've never done a game with a mascot, the Anteaters. I got to tell you, and that may be coming Saturday. I don't know. They're the 1 seed in our bracket.
They are.
Texas,
right.
The 4 seed. I was told after the game last night, if Irvine wins tonight, they're hosting the Bears of Northern Colorado. If they win that one, then we're going to California to play at Irvine. If Northern Colorado were to upset them, we would host the second round game in the NIT at our place at the
That would be really cool.
And again, that would be something now you're talking about hosting the first ever postseason tournament game at your place in the postseason Division I tournament. So we'll be watching or keeping up with it tonight and pulling for the Bears probably.
Well, there's no doubt about that. I mean, and then I was looking at the way they've reconfigured the NIT. Now, is it going to be the quarterfinals, semis, and finals will all be at historic Hinkle Fieldhouse going forward?
The semis and the finals are
the semis.
Like so in the old days,
okay,
where, you went to Madison Square Garden,
right? Yeah. So the third round would still be on a neutral. Well, not a neutral, but you'd still be traveling to a college campus.
And we got 4 schools total in Alabama in the NIT. The other 3 play tonight. UAB, Stanford, and North Alabama all playing tonight as well. So, and how about Alabama State and what they did last night in the first 4 to get a win? That's huge for them. Big payday for Alabama State and the SWAC now to get an extra game in the NCAA tournament.
Yeah, it really is.
Yeah, that's huge. And Mike, I mean, it's a good time for Jack State. I mean, you come off the football season where it's a bowl win.
No, he got me even more excited now. I mean, come on. I mean,
basketball.
I mean,
basketball's in the NIT.
Let's go.
I mean, there's a lot of stuff cooking over there.
You know, I've been very fortunate and very blessed throughout my career. You know, football wins at Ole Miss in 2010. We won down in Tallahassee at Florida State. First year at FBS football, you win a bowl game and overtime, walk-off field goal. We win the first year we're eligible to win the conference championship in Conference USA. We do so. But last night, I'm telling you, it ranks up there pretty special. And I'm a Georgia boy. If you cut me deep enough, you would probably find some red and black from the other school in the state over there inside my body. So, just selfishly speaking, it was pretty special for me last night to go in there and beat Tech. And you know, we've played them in football.
Yeah.
Our first ever NCAA regional and Division I baseball was at Georgia Tech in 2004. Then we were in another regional with them in Oxford, Mississippi in 2014. Our women have played in the softball regional there. We've played them in women's basketball, but last night, the first ever meeting in basketball. Hey, and let me add this, too. You were talking about the league. Folks don't realize, from top to bottom, our league in Conference USA was terrific this year.
Oh, it was
highest rated
outstanding.
It's been in 15 years. We were a top 10 league all year, as high as number 8. In the second half of the season, we stayed at number 9. We were rated ahead of the American Athletic and those other leagues. So it's a good league. Conference USA has been this year. And I think that says something about the league for us to go in and do what we did last night, too.
Well, it was good having you guys in Huntsville as well.
I loved it. I was there
proud.
for a couple of days. I didn't get a chance to see the finals because, I mean, because we had basically all that inclement weather. And how was that, though? That was having to wait so long.
We're proud to have that tournament here.
Great job that they got the game played, but good grief, you know?
Well, they had requested, the league wanted both teams at the arena at 5 o'clock, and we were scheduled to play at 7:30. But just in case of weather or whatnot, you know, they want them at the hotel, couldn't get out or couldn't leave or whatever because of weather. So both teams had been at the arena since 5 o'clock, which for us in particular is highly unusual on the road. Usually we're there probably an hour 15 at the most before a tip time of a game. And I think both coaches, if it was going to be 2 hours or something, both coaches were ready to take their teams back to the hotel and said, hey, we'll play Sunday at noon or 1 or whatever. But, you know, they did a terrific job taking care of the problem and getting it ready to go. And I'll say this, the first half of that, I'm telling you, high level. This is good at any college basketball games you'll ever see. Liberty for the last 2-3 weeks has really been playing terrific basketball. In the first half of the game, we were great as well. I mean, it's 37-33 at the half, and it had been terrific basketball. Unfortunately, we just didn't make shots the second half. They come out, and I think they go 7 for 7 to start it. They ended up shooting 60% from the field, and they shot 60% at the three-point line as well.
Yeah.
So if they can shoot the basketball like that, they got a chance to beat Oregon, I think, in the first round of the NCAA tournament. My only concern with Liberty would be their backcourt, their 2 guards, point guard and the shooting guard, Matheny. They're not real big. They don't have a whole lot of size, and that could create some issues for them defensively. But I'm telling you, if they shoot it like this, they got a chance against anybody.
Well, we're rooting for Northern Colorado at the peak against Jack State. And then what could happen in the quarterfinals, UAB and Jack State. What a matchup that could be. You know?
That would be sweet, you know, to play somebody in state. Or you end up, we get to Hinkle maybe possibly, and you're playing somebody from Alabama in a semifinal round game.
Yeah, that would be amazing, no doubt. Well, congrats to the Gamecocks on the big win. Coach Harper's done a great job there. I had a chance to see him at the Conference USA tournament. I was up there for a couple of days. It was a great event. Joel Lamp, Mark Russell, and that group did a great job.
It's fun having that tournament here.
Yeah, and it is. We'll have it again next year at Probst Arena. So we're looking forward to that. But good luck, my friend. We'll see what happens. We'll be rooting for Northern Colorado now hard tonight to get a NIT game at the Pete.
Thanks, guys. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Yeah, it's Mike Parrish. Great. What a great guy, man. What a great voice. And 42 years the voice of the Gamecocks, and nobody more well-versed in their history than him. And now that he's told me that, I'm excited. I'm like, wow, there's a chance. I'm hoping UC Riverside doesn't care, even though they're a mid-major team as well, and they'd like to get postseason wins. Just mail it in.
That's what you get in the NIT lots of times.
Sometimes you mail it in.
Sometimes you get teams that
conference tournament.
Yes, it's so hard to get back up. Yeah, you're excited to play in this game, but it doesn't mean as much because you're not on the big stage. You're not in the NCAA tournament where your heart wants to be. You're playing in what you think is the second tier tournament. Well, now it's the third tier. NIT's third tier.
UC Riverside's the one. Aren't they the ones that ripped off South Alabama? They went out there and laid a turd and lost by 25 or 30.
Yeah.
So, way to go, NCAA. It should have been South Alabama.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, so the NCAA doesn't always make the best decisions.
Oh, really?
I'm just saying.
Wow. I mean,
it seems to me that the NCAA has their head up their butt a lot of times. I don't know. I'm just going out on a limb.
Yeah.
I'm going out on a limb and saying that.
When the NCAA, I'm not going to call it a butt or even an ass. I'm going to call it a rectum.
Damn near killed her. Got to get a break in. Talking about next.
You're listening to Talkin' Ball on 97.7 ESPN, The Zone.
Got a couple of wrecks that are fairly new that may still be trying to wrap up. Got 1 Point Mallard and 6th Avenue in Decatur. Got 172 at Madison County High School. Had an overturned vehicle there. It was a no injury, but it's going to take a few minutes to get that one cleared out of the way. We had one on the Parkway at Drake that reported injury, but it looks like they canceled HIMSY on it. Expert Heart Care backed by advanced technology. When you need cardiac care, you need the heart doctor. Dr. Randall Burns and the team at Huntsville Heart Specialists on Bob Wallace Avenue. Captain Nick in the Valley Skywatch Traffic Center.
Hey, do you have heating and air issues as the springtime starts to roll around? Hey, there's just one name you need to know. Talent Heating and Air. #1 heating and air business right here in the Tennessee Valley.
Yeah, we're locally based. If you call, you're going to get somebody based in Huntsville. Mentioned in spring earlier, we can actually do indoor air quality products, so we can help alleviate those allergy problems you're having in your house.
All right, Thomas from Talent Heating and Air, give them the number that when they call, somebody live and local will pick up.
That's 256-503-4490.
And you can always head to the World Wide Web and find Talent Heating and Air, and you guys will still respond.
That's talenthvac.com. If you don't want to talk to a person right away, you can fill out a form on there and get scheduled for a visit.
That's Talent Heating and Air. They're live, they're local. It's Talent Heating and Air.
AL certain number 21014.
This segment of Talkin' Ball is brought to you by University Kia, the #1 volume Kia dealer in the state of Alabama. Located online at universitykia.com.
Well, we're done.
It's Pro Day football in Tuscaloosa. So we did talk about, 2 seconds of football at the very end. It's Pro Day.
Well, we didn't have
Steelers
a lot of time.
in town last night. They met with Jalen Milroe.
We didn't have a lot of time to do a lot of that stuff. We'll get to it all.
So much basketball, so little time.
Well, it's going to be a lot of that tomorrow, too, because tomorrow we get it
tonight on 97.7 The Zone. First 4.
Yeah, tonight you get the ever so entertaining Mount St. Mary's and American and
Xavier in Texas should be a good game.
Texas.
Excited about that.
Rodney Terry needs it. Rodney Terry needs to get a win.
He might, or he may get fired.
I'm saying he needs it.
Eagle Masonry and Installation. It's right there in the name. Eagle is your one-stop shop for block, stone, or brickwork, monument signs, and outdoor kitchens and fireplaces. Eagle also offers the finest craftsmanship and